Hello viewers, welcome to my show, The Middle Man. I am Shafiq Ahmed. Today we are going to talk about our retirement planning. Being a business as a financial professional for the last 2 decades, I have witnessed and seen not too many people in my community has a very clear idea about retirement goal and objective. They say to retire comfortably here in Canada, you need a systematic financial plan and retirement goal. We might think free healthcare system, government support may be enough to secure our retirement life. But in reality, it is not that simple. To check the retirement reality, today I have invited Tyler Atkinson. Tyler Atkinson is senior financial consultant with IG Wealth Management. And viewers, you are watching the show Middel Man. Tyler Atkinson, he has been in business over 10 years and he is a financial planner and retirement planner as well. With his intensive knowledge, today he will explain us our retirement objectives and retirement goals. So let's talk Tyler Atkinson. So hi Tyler, how are you today?
Oh, good. Yourself?
Good, very good. Good to have you here today, Tyler. Okay, Tyler, I know that you have been in business for a long time, over 10 years.
Yes.
So, and you do retirement planning for your client.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, so my question, why do I need a retirement planning?
Well, basically, if you look at what's more important to you, your life or this building. This is a question one of my mentors asked me many years ago. Of course, your life is. Well, look, this building has a blueprint. It had a whole plan before it ever was built. Shouldn't your life have the same? That's why everyone needs a financial plan.
Okay, so I need a financial plan for my retirement because when I get old, I need something very stable to stand on, right? So now the question here comes that here in Canada, I have healthcare system, I have CPP, I have old age security. After all those things, why do I need a retirement plan?
Okay, very good question. Well, you look at CPP and old age security, the maximum someone who's retiring at 65 gets from those programs would be $615 for old age security and $1,203 a month for Canada Pension Plan. So total that's $1,818, and that's gross, assuming the full amount. Now, if people were not actually in Canada for a certain number of years after age 18, or if they didn't contribute fully to the CPP, then what would happen is you wouldn't even have that amount. And for a single person or even a couple, that would be a fairly tough lifestyle to live on. Most people I know, they're looking for a bit more than that, not to mention, well, what if you wanted a lump sum? You can't take a lump sum out of any defined benefit pension plan, CPP or old age security, and do you really want to rely on the government to support you for the duration of your life?
Yeah, so this CPP and old age security, they have certain way to calculate how much money and how much a person can get at their retirement age, right? So my question, how CPP and old age security plan calculate and how much can I get when I retire?
Okay, well that's a very good question also. You can actually take CPP as early as age 60 and as late as age 70. So take someone who's getting $1,000 a month from CPP. The maximum is $1,200, actually $1,203.75 per month, assuming maximum contributions. But if they're just say yours individually, you weren't qualified for the whole amount, for the easy number, we'll say you would get $1,000 at 65. Well, if you took that exactly 5 years early, you'd have 640. It would be a 36% reduction. And if you took it 5 years later, you get $1,420. Now I'm ignoring inflation and saying before tax, but you can see how if someone takes it early, they get a significant reduction, yet 5 years more payment. And if they take it all the way the latest you can take it, you get a significantly less amounts of payment, but you get 42% more, or more than double what you get if you start at 60. So what you really need to do is go back to your plan, talk to your financial advisor, talk to your family, and see what makes most sense for you. Regarding the old age security, you can't get that till 65. You can get extra if you wait till 70. You do have to be careful, though, of what's called the clawback, because the clawback, you can actually, if you're making a high income after age 65, you can actually lose that, have some or all of it clawed back, or essentially what clawback means is you have to repay what you received back to the government.
Wonderful. So one thing that you mentioned here, that CPP, old age security, and the inflation that you mentioned. So what actually impact that inflation has here on CPP or old age security, or is there any impact? Can you explain?
Yeah, very good question. So CPP and OAS, they are indexed to inflation, but they're not guaranteed to be. So for example, the government doesn't have to keep them going. And the one thing that should be said, I don't think it's an issue, but back in the 90s, there was talk about, was the CPP properly funded by the government? And there was actually a talk of replacing that benefit. Now, because of various reasons, it didn't happen. So assuming with relatively low interest rates and low inflation, I think the consumers right now can expect those to be indexed with inflation, which right now interest rates and inflation are quite low.
Well, the reason I'm asking, I just brought that point, inflation, back I think 15, 20 years ago, when the inflation was pretty high. There was a concern about the inflation, right? And the inflation right now, we know that it's very low, but I don't know how long the interest rate will low and the inflation will low as well. We don't know that. So now today, the person who is retiring, getting, for example, let's say your calculation, $1,800 from combining CPP and OSC, right? So what is going to happen? Someone who is in his 40 will be retiring in another 20 to 25 years. And isn't it that inflation over the time, let's say 10 years from now, if it jumped to 2.5% or 3%, who will have impact on their CPP? So if that case, is government has any plan in place?
Does the government have, so you're saying, will the government have a plan to increase the CPP and OAS?
Exactly, adjusted the, yeah.
If we look at what happened 25 years ago, they were actually supposed to, or going to, I should say, they had a proposed plan to replace the CPP and OAS with the seniors benefit. What stopped it? There were a few things that stopped it. One was public outcry. I think if they tried to change it too much, if we base it on history, there would just be like a mass reaction from the crowd. Basically, the people would say, "Hey, I don't want to get any less than I would in previous years." And the most recent attempt to change that was a few years ago in a previous government, when they were actually planning to phase it in so you didn't start getting regular CPP to age 67, but then they brought it back. So there always could be changes on that. So I think the consumer has to be aware. And the one thing I've told clients, especially young clients, if you really want to be safe, plan as if it's not going to be there. Because if you get to 65, it'll probably be there. It might have adapted or changed.
Yeah, so basically what is that if there is a chance for CPP to be eroded by inflation, and government is not going to be that, will not take that initial to adjust. So it is better to have something beside the CPP in future. You don't know what is going to happen, I guess. All right. So my another question here, that besides CPP and OAS, a lot of people here in Canada, they have employee pension plan or deferred pension plan. So isn't it enough for those people to retire comfortably if they have those things in place?
So would it be enough if they had their pension plan? Well, the key is what type of pension plan. People can own real estate, but there's all kinds of different real estate. You could have a condo, a townhouse, a regular house, a mansion. Well, with defined benefit pension plans, many people who work for the government have the quote unquote creme de la creme as far as pension plans go. They work somewhere for 35 years, they get a total of 70% of their salary. It's indexed to inflation, and they're pretty set. If you have a husband and wife that both worked in that kind of plan, as sometimes they do, then 70% of their gross income is going to be paid to them. However, some people don't have a pension plan period. Some people worked at an organization like that for maybe 5 or 10 years, which doesn't build that much. And some have a defined contribution pension plan, which is really an RSP type where you pick an investment, the employer may match you, you put in 4% of your salary, they put in a 1 or 2 or say 4% match, but you choose the investment, so it could go up, it could go down, subject to performance. So it's a pretty low percentage of people that can actually rely on their company pension plan. And by the way, when I say government, I mean they work for the government as opposed to CPP and OAS, but still very few people I see actually can rely on that. And as I said before, that doesn't include things like lump sums. Many people want to help their kids, maybe with a wedding, with the first home, and you can't just take a lump sum of a pension plan.
So yeah, okay. So it understood that when you have CPP, OAS, on the top of that, if you have a deferred pension plan, okay, you can count a kind of a good retirement, right? So good retirement, that's the word that I said. So my question, how much money do I need to have a moderate or a good retirement life?
Okay. Well, I get that question quite a bit, Shavik. And it really depends on you. Everyone's a little different. It's very hard to generalize. But the process that I would use, and most good financial consultants will use, is what they'll do is they'll say, where do you want to be down the road? And the key is, the more specific you can be, the easier it is to plan. If you, for example, tell me, I have a moderate lifestyle, I don't like to spend too much, that's completely intangible, very hard to plan for. If you were to say that myself and my wife, we need $5,000 net of tax every month, then we could work on that. We could say how much is expected to come in from pensions. Are there any lump sums that are expected, possibly in inheritance or selling land? Are there any lump sum expenditures that have to go out? What regular expenditures do you need? Are you going to need a new car every 8 years or so? Are you going to downsize your house? So that person, you can do those plans one of a couple ways. You can do what I call the manual plan, and that's a very basic level. So for example, if you had no other money in the world, no pensions whatsoever, and you needed $30,000 a year, and you had $500,000, you had an investment you thought could make 6%, then that would give you $30,000 every year without running out of money, no matter how long you live. Now, anyone who knows financial planning well will will listen to what I just said and say, well, how about inflation? How about taxes? How about a lump sum costs? Potentially someone dying prematurely? All that has to be considered.
So just here a point that when I said that how much money do I need to have a comfortable retirement life? So you said $500,000. Let's say that that when I retire 15 years from now, and I have $600,000 by cashing my other investment or a real estate, anything. So $600, and if I invest the $600 with a 6% rate of return, I think 6% is very aggressive rate, but anyway, 6% rate of return. Do you think that that will give me a comfortable or moderate kind of retirement life?
So if you had $600,000, yeah, the first thing that we would do is we would do an assessment because the interest rate's very low. If you were to invest that in a very conservative investment, it would be, you couldn't get 6%. You would have to invest it in something else. Our company actually has a program where we tend to suggest aggressive is 6.16%, conservative would be 3.84%. So there's various rates that, and different softwares use different things, but it's up to you, or we often recommend working with a financial professional. If you work with a financial professional, between you and them, you agree what's a good rate of return. You look at what we call...
Yeah, but not rate of return. My point is that with let's say that very conservative rate, even 2.5% to 3%, little over inflation, right? So with that kind of interest rate or 4% interest rate, if I have $600,000, okay, when I retire at my age 65, then do you think, with of course life expectancy, do you think I can have a moderate kind of retirement life?
Well, how would you define moderate retirement? What would that mean to you?
Well, that's a very good question. My moderate kind of retirement could be, like having 1 or 2 vacation with my grandchildren, maybe.
Yeah,
okay, and having sometimes with the relatives and stuff. Okay, and make sure that I don't get sick. That's kind of moderate life that I'm thinking. Okay, so what is your views on it?
And what would you say, could you possibly quantify that in dollar terms? Like what would that mean based on today's dollars per month or per year? How much would you need?
Well, when I will retire, I wouldn't have any mortgage or anything will be paid off, assuming that will be paid off, okay, or I'll downsize, right? And then, like if I have $600,000 in my account, probably with a CPP, with old age security that I'm getting, that $1,800, my wife with another $1,800. So it's together, I guess it's $3,600, right? So if I get $3,600, and then if I have $600,000, all cash out my investment and get 4% return on it. I don't know how much would be the return. So if I leave another, let's say, I don't know, another 25 to 30 years after my retirement, is this going to give me the life that I was talking about?
Well, from what you've said, you'd be in the ballpark. To be quite frank with you, I do have a math degree, but I'm not quite good enough to do that all in my head and say yes or no. But what you do if you go through a comprehensive financial plan, which I recommend everyone does, is you say, for example, you are, let's say someone is 50 years old now and they want to retire at 65, they plan to live till 95. We usually based our plans on living till at least 90. Not everyone does live to 90, but if you do live to 90 or 95, you want to make sure.
If you do live up until 90, yeah. So you said comprehensive financial planning, okay? So when it comes, and your expertise in financial planning. So when you say the comprehensive financial planning, what exactly you define the comprehensive financial planning?
What to me, a comprehensive financial plan is a financial plan that gets very important results achieved in an effective manner in all the areas of financial planning. So that would be the obvious one that most people think of as investments, but some others include estate planning, insurance needs if applicable, cash flow management, debt reduction, and the whole plan. And a good plan will, if you do it right, you'll be able to have a base plan, and then you'll be able to don't really love this term, but manipulate it. So say, well, what if I was to retire a year later? What if I was to live 5 years longer? What if we downsize the house? What if we don't downsize the house? So by looking at all the options, you can look at what makes sense. Now, one of the things that our company talks about is plan, unplanned. And no year is more appropriate to talk about that than the year after 2020 and 2021 because of COVID. Like we all had a plan for 2020, whether it was a personal plan or some sort of financial plan, but that all changed. The reality is, well, there won't be a COVID every year, but there will be something. It might be something that happens with people in your family. It might be something that happens to the stock market. It might be what they call COVID, which is an exogenous or kind of outside event that happens that affects everyone.
I'm paying taxes each year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The income tax rate, perfect
Yeah.
example. There's things that change all the time. So you do have to change it and adapt, but the important thing is to have a framework, a base. That's what I think is important. So
Yeah.
the financial plan should change that. And if you think of what your goals were 5 years ago, think of what they are today. Has anything changed?
Well, it changed over the time, of course,
Yeah,
right?
of
So change is always happening, right?
So constant is change, as they say.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a comprehensive planning when it comes. You just like say there's estate planning or all other investment planning and all the things, right? And automatic that comes, I guess, is the retirement planning is RRSP.
Yeah, like the RSP is a very big part of financial planning. A lot of people do contribute to the RSP.
Yeah. So right now is a February month and is RSP season. Right? So obviously there is a huge benefit and there's a lot of things to talk about the RSP. So viewers, we are talking about our retirement goal and plan, and we'll talk about RSP contribution and other factors that associated with that.